everybody. Welcome back to Aging is Direction. I'm Cathy Clements, your longevity strategist. And today we're going to talk about something that most people don't think about until it becomes a problem: balance. I got to tell you, it's probably the last thing my clients want to train, but it's the first thing, especially my older clients, need to train. So, balance isn't exactly a sexy wellness topic. It's not even, you know, a supplement that anybody could talk about or take. And it's probably the last fitness trend that anybody even talks about, if they even talk about it anymore, which I really haven't seen it on any of the Instagram posts and things that I've been seeing lately. So it's not the newest biohack, but if your goal is to stay independent, capable, and active in the second half of life, then balance is one of the most important skills you can develop. Because the truth is, nobody plans to fall. Nobody wakes up and says, okay, today seems like a good day to lose my independence, to take a header down a set of stairs, or something as easy as stepping off a curb wrong and then falling. And yet falls remain one of the leading reasons older adults lose confidence, mobility, and freedom. The good news: balance is trainable. Stability is trainable. Confidence is trainable. And today we're going to walk and talk through about all of that and why it's important. So, when people start to notice, I don't have balance anymore, what do they do? Most people don't notice balance changes, to be honest, not all at once at least. It takes them um, a almost falling to realize, wow, my balance doesn't seem quite right today. And they may attribute it to congestion, allergies, all the things that come up and make your head a little bit swimmy. So therefore, you're off balance. And it shows up. So balance itself, or the lack of, shows up very quietly. Maybe, like I just said, you step off a curb and you feel a less steady, or maybe you grab a handrail more often than you used to. Maybe you enjoy, um, I don't know, maybe you avoid uneven trails. That's a good one. Or that you used to enjoy going on. I have examples for all of these for you. Maybe you hesitate more before climbing a ladder or a set of stairs. I can tell you, I don't like to climb ladders anymore unless I know somebody's holding the bottom of the ladder for me, whereas it didn't used to be that way. Let me go back to the stepping off the curb. My oldest client, and the good part is this happened after we had been practicing. Prescott's got a wonderful square, but the grass area around the courthouse, the curb starts probably no more than 4 inches. But then, if you're not paying attention, as it goes up toward the courthouse, it becomes a foot to almost 2 feet high. And I had a client that was there with her sister, just showing her the town, and stepped back off of the grass area. The good part was she hopped a couple times and caught herself and realized that the strength training she had been doing for legs and back and arms actually helped her prevent the fall. She's 89, going on 90 this year. I have a client that came to me completely in an, I would call it, in a 90-degree angle. She was on a walker. Her goal was to walk down the aisle at her granddaughter's wedding. And she and her husband's goal, because her husband was the one that brought her to me, he wanted her to be able to go hiking with him. And through progression, we got her in a very vertical position. She was able to walk down the aisle for the wedding. Whether she's still hiking with her husband, I don't know. She's no longer a client. I would hope so. She was in her 70s. So chronological age has nothing to do with what you're able to train for balance and your capability, your stability, and your confidence in what your capability is. So don't ever think it's a chronological age issue, because it's not. So going back to the hesitation before climbing a ladder, a few years ago, my husband and I were putting together a pergola in our backyard. I have a shoulder issue that back in the 90s I dislocated while I was outrigger canoe paddling. I've had 2 surgeries on it. I know I'm not a surgery candidate. I refuse to do a shoulder replacement. So I use strength training and flexibility to keep my shoulders and all my joints moving the way they're supposed to. But in this particular incident, I was on a ladder. The pergola that we were putting together, a top rail began to fall. And instead of just letting it fall and pushing back away from it, I leaned forward to grab it, dislocated my shoulder again. And so I'm hesitant to climb ladders and do it. Well, about a month ago, that pergola fell apart. It was not very stable to begin with, but we bought another one, decided we were going to put it up ourselves again. And this time, all my concern was, please, let's do this slowly. I don't need to be injured. You don't need to be injured. And let's figure this out. And it's much sturdier pergola. And it took a lot of screwing things in to the top rails of it. So I had to be up on a ladder on one side, he was on a ladder on another, and we were moving backwards through this pergola and putting it together. We did it slowly, and no injuries occurred, but the confidence of getting up on the ladder and then leaning away from the ladder or leaning over the ladder to do what I needed to do to complete my side. I'll be honest and admit that I was hesitant to do it. But both of us had responsibilities, and I just moved a little slower until I really felt confident. Oh, I have this, I can do this. And it became less and less of an issue as we moved through the rebuild of this pergola. So the moments that you hesitate may seem small at the time, but they're signals. They're signals that are just telling you, oh, you're not feeling as confident. They're not warnings that you're gonna fall. They're signals that your body is asking you to pay attention, and pay attention to where you're at, what position you're putting your body in, and what your capability currently is. And here's what I want you to remember. Awareness is not decline. Awareness is an opportunity. Okay? So the opportunity is to take a moment, figure out where you are, maybe reposition yourself, and then go forward with whatever the project is. I know I'm not ready to slow down in my 60s and even into my 70s. I feel like I'm capable of doing things. I might go a little bit slower through them. And because of that, it might take me a little longer to do projects, or I may hold off on something and just say, you know what? I'd rather pay someone younger to do this for me. And that's okay too. So there are 3 systems of balance that I want us to discuss. So most people think balance comes from just your legs, but it actually comes from 3 systems that are all working together in your body. One is your vision. And if you notice, I have glasses now. I don't wear them full time, but I'm getting to the point where I need them to, see anything in writing, to look at my phone, to work on my computer. I can still drive without them, thank goodness. But vision, number one, your inner ear. So when I mentioned some people attribute being off balance solely to being congested, whether it's an ear infection, sinus infection, um, allergies, any kind of head congestion, but your inner ear, and it is a part of your balance. So your vision and your inner ear kind of work together. And the last thing is your body's awareness of where you are in space. And that kind of sounds nebulous, I suppose, but your body, like when you put both feet on the ground and your hands are at your sides or on your sides, you know where you are. You feel usually that's a very grounding feeling. But if you're on one leg and you're, reaching out for something, whole different experience. And your body has to kind of feel its way and feel like it's aware of where it is in space. So let's break all that down. So your eyes very simply tell you where you are, right? Um, your inner ear acts like that built-in level. That's where that equilibrium portion comes when you feel like you're a little bit off balance. And the muscles and joints constantly send information to your brain. Your brain takes all of that information in and makes thousands of adjustments every minute. So you don't have to think about it. It just happens. So until one of those systems becomes less efficient, then suddenly, or when one of those, I should say, systems becomes less efficient, then suddenly balance feels harder. Now, I'm going to reiterate this over and over. So if I don't, you're going to hear me say it at least this time. Balance is not part of your chronological age. Period. End of story. All right. So your eyes, your ears, and your awareness in space, those three things are what help you with balancing your body. So then what's the next thing? Well, it's that confidence connection. The one thing I see a lot of is that people stop doing activities because they're afraid of falling. They don't want to go on those hikes because the surface is a little uneven, or they may pop a rock and that throws them off. It's their ankles and their feet, their knees, their hips. All those things come into play when you're in an uneven surface or on an uneven surface. And ironically, that fear creates more risk. So I guess I think back on children. When my kids were learning to walk, my son got up, fell down, got up, fell down, got up, and just started running. And great balance, always had it, still does. My daughter just watched him and went, okay, that's how you do this. She just got up and started walking. So she learned from him. Now they're twins, if you didn't know that. So when they're learning how to do this, they're learning simultaneously. So it was very interesting watching how a boy and a girl both learn to do the same kind of thing. So that fear comes with age, comes with the experiences of having fallen, right? So maybe when we're younger, we don't fear that because we haven't fallen and haven't had a major catastrophe in what catastrophic, which is in my head, or how we might explain a situation away. A catastrophe doesn't necessarily mean you've broken bones and things. It's just you've fallen, you've scraped yourself, and you picking yourself back up. Um, Most of these movements maintain, as you're doing them, and even as a kid, you still maintain your confidence, and your confidence encourages more movement. The two reinforce each other: confidence and movement, movement and confidence. When people stop moving, and start becoming more sedentary, they lose exposure to that very thing that helps preserve their balance, which is the movement. So that's why confidence matters. Not overconfidence. I think there's what would you call that? Um, a good, healthy feeling of this might not be the best thing for me to do, like tightrope walking, not something I would do. So confidence matters, but overconfidence you got to stay away from. And capability based confidence is huge, but the capability is based on the movement that you're doing and the movements that you um, realize that you can still do. So if you're not moving, then you don't have that confidence based capability or capability based confidence, excuse me. So, confidence that comes from practicing something, confidence that comes from preparation, or confidence that comes from strength. Now, you all have heard me talk about strength training and resistance training, and last episode we talked about what our cardiovascular training does for us as well. So, strength is balance training as well. So many people separate strength and balance. I don't. I put them together because everybody needs that balance. And you need to be in on a different plane um, as you're doing some of the things. So I would say one of the things I think I tell most of my clients right off the bat when they say, hey, my balance is getting kind of wonky, is start simple. And that is start with standing on one foot while you're brushing your teeth. So do half your mouth for 30 seconds ish on one foot, switch, do the other half of your mouth on the other foot, 30 seconds, switch back. I don't know. Everybody brushes their teeth for a different amount of time. So if you're one of those 2-minute teeth brushers, which is, I think, what they recommend, then you're on both sides of your body for a good minute, just not straight. And depending on what the surface is in your bathroom, are you standing on a rug on a wooden surface? Or are you standing on a rug on a tile surface? Are you standing just on tile, just on a rug? You're going to find that your body responds differently to every one of those surfaces, and that's expected. So if you attempt this and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't do that, and you're on a rug on some tile, remove the rug and just stand on the tile and see how that feels for you, just to get started. So I'm getting ahead of myself, I know, but strength is one of the most powerful balance tools that we have available to us. If you stumble, it's the strength that helps you recover. If you haven't fallen all the way, it's the strength in your glutes and your hamstrings and your thighs and your back that bring you back upright to catch yourself before your hands hit the ground or you go face plant on the ground. So strength helps you recover from a stumble. If you trip, strength helps you catch yourself, like I just said. And if you need to get off the floor, because here's the hard part, that strength also helps you stand up. Now, I just recently had a client tell me that they fell in their living room, and we were working on strength and we were working on balance. And she said to me, I need to do this more. I realized I couldn't get off the floor without crawling to a piece of furniture. I think it was the coffee table she used to help herself up. So that was one of the things that I started showing them. Let's discuss how you're going to get up if you fall. But let's try to work on the balance so that you don't fall. Balance isn't just standing on one foot. I start with that because that's the easiest thing to talk about. But if your ability to respond when life becomes unpredictable. Life is unpredictable, and that's why strength matters. Now, that last part might have sounded like, where did she go? She's not even talking about balance, but I am, because sometimes it's where your head's at. You know how they tell you get your head in the game, if you did athletics of any kind, or you weren't paying attention. And a lot of us aren't. We've got 10, 20 different things going on in our heads, and our heads aren't thinking, oh, I have to balance. Oh, I need to grab a handrail to walk up a set of stairs. Oh, I'm going downstairs and not, my arms are full. You're you're not really thinking about it. You're just responding to where you need to go. And what if you miss a step? What if those kinds of things. So life is unpredictable, and that's why it matters to have strength and balance. So let's talk about what that floor, getting off the floor means. And it can be called the floor test. So here's some questions that you should ask yourself, or maybe ask your significant other. Can you comfortably get down on the floor? That's one. Like if you were to get down to play with grandkids, or maybe to pick up your pet, or to, you know, sit down on the floor and brush your cat or your dog, that kind of thing. Can you comfortably get down on the floor? And then here's the bigger one. Can you comfortably get back up? And what effort does that take? So, do you have to use furniture? Or can you do it without the assistance of furniture? So that's four questions right there. Can you get down? Can you get up? Can you do it without furniture? Or do you need it with the assistance of furniture? If any of those questions makes you uncomfortable, that's okay. No panic. It's just telling you this is one, like I say, everything's information, right? So it's just telling you, oh, I might have to work on that a little, or I need to find like a workaround. I call them workarounds. I don't want you to work around balance. I want you to work at it, though, because one of the best indicators of your future independence is your ability to transition from the floor to standing. It isn't, again, none of this is about athleticism or aesthetics. It's about your capability, and the capability to balance and to keep moving forward. And capability matters, because capability based confidence is what we're looking for, right? What are you capable of doing? And those things help give you confidence to continue to do them, to continue to move. Now, we hike a lot with another couple. I think I've already told you, they're about 15 years older than us. Um, and they both had different joints replaced, and periodically she'll misstep, but she was athletic when she was younger. She's still athletic now. And she's kind of trained her body to just not collapse into it, but accept it and fall in a non dangerous way. I guess that's the best way to put it. So she knows, and I've been there when she's tripped and fallen. I watch her and she doesn't injure herself. She's able to just get right back up. So that's one thing. That's a capability based confidence, that when you fall or when something happens, that you can then get back up, brush yourself off, and keep going. So reaction time is something that you have to think about as you're, stepping, let's say, stepping off a curb. How quickly can you react to the different distances that you're stepping down, or balance when it comes to changing directions, or stepping upstairs, stepping downstairs, holding something in your hands? All these things come into play with your balance. And like I said, it's not always just standing on one foot. So balance is not static. It's dynamic. It's very fluid depending on where you are and what you're doing. Um, Real life doesn't just happen while you're standing perfectly still. It Real life happens when, oh, the dog pulls the leash and pulls you off balance. The same client that stepped off the curb has two dogs, and one of them is younger than the other, and the younger one um, pulled, I think it was across her body, and pulled her down to the point where she did hit the ground, had bruising around her eye due to her sunglasses, and I think was more angry at the animal, but she was able to then brush herself off and get back up. And a lot of that is due to her strength training, a little bit of balance training, and knowing all those things that we've already talked about. So your grandchild running in front of you, how quickly can you react to that? Or um, when we go hiking, we all take our dogs, and our friends have a dog that's roughly, I would, he's probably 80 pounds. Our lab is about 80 pounds, and the two of them get roughhousing. Well, if you're not aware of where they are, where they're running, what they're doing, they either hit you from the side or from the back, or maybe they hit you from the front. How quickly can you react to those kinds of circumstances? Um, that's why a lot of people that are older don't have bigger dogs, because they do tend, to feel like they're off balance or get pulled off balance. Um, I think I already said grandchildren running around, uneven sidewalks. That's everywhere. And we like to travel. So Europe has cobblestones. The East Coast of the United States has cobblestones, depending on what cities you're in. So Alexandria, Virginia has cobblestone roads and uneven sidewalks. Um, Prescott, same thing, has not the cobblestone, but uneven sidewalks, and things you can trip on, things that get cracked, and then you have to be aware and be able to react to it. How quickly can you react if a floor is wet, and let's say you're wearing flip-flops? Maybe you're coming in from a swimming pool, or the surface has just changed, and now you're sliding a little bit, or you have to catch yourself in that regard. What if you misstep? Like I said, what if you miss a stair going down, or you miss a stair going up? Can you catch yourself before you fall? These are all balance related issues, and it they don't get easier if we don't pay attention to how our body's reacting. So, you know, evaluating how your body has to react, evaluating, you know, I suppose a, a pre-evaluation is putting it in your head, oh, I'm getting ready to step down some stairs, like be aware, is better than having to do a post evaluation of why you tumbled down the stairs and why you injured yourself, that kind of thing. So that's why we train balance. Um, a lot of it is for reaction, not just being able to stand on one leg and ta-da, you're a ballerina, kind of thing. It's being able to think about the reaction time and changing directions and all those kinds of things that can happen with any of those circumstances um, that you might come into. And balanced reaction isn't perfect. Recovery isn't necessarily perfect, but the way you go about it and the way we practice it, um, it makes you more confident that you're capable of uh, catching yourself either on the stairs or changing surfaces or hiking on an uneven surface or being around large animals that could, drag you down a hill. So let's talk about what practical balance training might be. So here are some things almost anyone can begin doing. So, like we talked about, standing on one foot while brushing your teeth. And my suggestion is always start with 30 seconds, because if you can start there, that's a great starting point. And if it's not 30, maybe it's 20 or maybe it's 15. Start where you are and then move from there. And and just flip flop back and forth side to side. Walk, another one would be walk heel to toe across a room. Now that actually is more difficult, I think, than standing on one foot. I find myself, I begin, I don't always the whole way, but I begin by looking down at my feet. Spatially, my body should know where my feet are. So think about that. Is that something that you do as well? Do you watch your feet as you walk? That tends to change your posture. It tends to make you more susceptible to leaning forward and then possibly falling forward if you lose your balance. But walking heel to toe, I would think practice posture as well. Practice standing from a chair without using the arms of the chair. So finding a folding chair and just being able to stand up. So the client that I told you was on a walker at the wedding. After she got down the aisle, that was the second phase of that training for her, was how do you get out of the chair, because you know that they're all folding chairs that they're setting up. So we practiced with her getting up out of the chair without having someone to help her, grab an arm or whatever, and no arms on the chair. So we found different ways for her to be able to get up out of that seat. Even if it came to having sat for a long service, because I don't think she was aware of how long it would be, is even just placing her hands on the seat of the chair and being able to help push up if she needed to do that. But if you can without doing that, that's great. Just stand up without your hands. Awesome. Carrying groceries. So to simulate that in a gym kind of capacity, I call them suitcase walks. And it really is just having dumbbells in each hand and just walking back and forth. No lunges, no nothing like that, just normal walking. The more you increase that weight, the more you feel it in your hands because of your grip strength. And you'll see how that plays in with your ability to carry your groceries. And the other place you feel it, surprisingly, is in your back, because your posture, you have to take that weight on somewhere. So if it's just hanging at your sides, it's coming from your shoulders, which can, depending on how heavy the weight is, compress part of your back if your back is not strong. So that's where strength comes in with balance. Walking on different surfaces. So going from a trail, a granite trail to, and I'm not talking bouldering by any means. I'm saying little rocks to driveway rocks, that can be an inch to 2 inches in diameter, or to smooth surfaces, and going from that to a wood floor or a tiled floor. The other thing for women is, and this is where I noticed just recently, is going to a couple of different weddings, this style of shoes that I wear. I realize now, and I never really, when I was younger, was big into, the skinny heels, but that was a style for a long time. And so skinny heeled pumps were more, you end up more wobbly than you do with a wider heel. in your shoe. So think of that as well as what shoes are you wearing on the different surfaces, and how does that feel, and how confident do you feel in those? None of these are really complicated exercises. They're just commonplace things that you may do throughout any day or any month. But they are powerful when it comes to helping you with your balance and helping give you that confidence to keep going. And because they may challenge you, um, that in and of itself helps keep us independent, because in that challenge, we build the capability and we build the confidence to do more of that or more similar activities. I would say, I don't know. I don't think I've instilled in my children the same mindset that I recall getting from my grandparents, which was, as you grow older, you sit more, you become heavier, or um, are less active. I don't think that's the case anymore, or I don't personally feel that. And I personally feel like I've run into a lot more people that are very active into their 70s, 80s, and into their 90s. And that kind of activity then keeps them confident that they can continue to do more. So I believe there is a mindset shift. And the shift that I would love for you to have is, instead of asking, how do I avoid getting older? Because you can't, is how do I remain capable while getting older? And those are very different questions. One creates fear, like, how do I avoid getting older? And the other creates action. So that action is what I hope for you to continue doing day in and day out, whether it's in an exercise environment and you're consciously practicing it, or if you're just out moving and doing things that put you in those situations, whether it's hiking or even walking on a semi-flat surface or trail, but it's still on granite. That's still an uneven surface. You just don't know. So things to think about as you age. And what I would also like to tell you is I'm going to include a couple of the exercises. Getting up and down off the floor is one, and we're going to do a few different things. And I know if you get on social media, there's a ton of different ways people tell you to do it. I'm not going to get really specialized in telling you how to do it. I'm just going to show you some quick variations with and without equipment. So before we wrap up, here's what I'd love you to think about. What activities do you want to continue 10 years from now? Are you someone who likes to travel like I do? Or do you just want to garden? And that's getting up and out of a gardening seat or off of the ground. How about playing with your own kids or grandkids? Hiking, dancing. Dancing's one that I'd like. My husband doesn't dance as much as I'd like. Not, like the couples dancing stuff. So now ask yourself, am I training for those activities? Doesn't seem like you should have to train, but you need to be active. You need to continue the movement that gives you that capacity-based confidence. And in that regard, you are training. All right. So here's what I'd like you to practice. Practice one of the balance activities, one every day this week. Nothing complicated, just consistent. And then I'd love for you to carry forward these thoughts. Balance is not luck. Balance is a skill, and skills improve with practice, because aging isn't decline, it's a direction. And every step you take today helps determine where that direction leads. I'll see you in the next episode.
So if you're sitting like a queen or a princess, you don't rest against the back. Most of us Americans sit all the way back in a chair. So how do you get out of this? Hopefully you can stand up. Sometimes pushing down on your thighs with your arms gives you that added leverage to push straight up. There are no arms, so you may be someone who needs to push off of the chair then. This, though, changes your body position to a rocking forward first and then pushing up. So you have to think about that as you think about your balance. Another direction, not as ladylike, is placing your hands in the middle and then pushing straight up. Some of you men, maybe that's the way you want to go if you can't. I would love it for all of you to be able to just stand up. So some of you have grandchildren and you want to get on the floor to play with them. So if you separate your feet a little wider than shoulders width, squatting down is the best way, then touching the ground in front and maybe in back, and sitting backwards. That gets you down. Now to get up, being able to cross one leg under and then pushing up onto one leg, bringing this leg straight behind. Now you can stand up with no assistance from furniture. Ideally, that's how you're getting up and getting down, or you get down the same way. One knee back, one knee forward, cross this back, and then sit down. Everybody's a little different. Gauge your own balance, and this will help you figure out how to then get up and get off of the floor. It is important because if you were to fall, if you were to fall and you might be first assess if you have any injuries, some people might find it easier to get into 2 knees, 2 hands, rock back onto your toes by pushing your hands backwards, and then using your legs and coming up. Both ways work. So how I tell people to start is brushing your teeth. So if you can brush your teeth on one foot, you'll notice that my ankle wobbles a little. That's okay, it's proprioception. It's the nerves getting used to the fact that you're on one leg. So you can tap with your foot, or if you can hold your knee up, awesome. And then turn, switch legs, and now brush with the other side. Everybody has a stronger side. This isn't my strongest side, my right side is. Now, if you feel like you're more advanced, some of the things to do in more advanced balance is standing on both feet, hands at your sides, closing your eyes, or closing your eyes and looking up. It changes the way your body responds. Remember, there's vision, there's your body position, and there's your inner ear. So in changing the position of your head, changes how your ears are dealing with equilibrium. Again, we're taking vision completely out by closing our eyes and then balancing. To make it even harder, you close your eyes and lift a leg. See if you can do that. These are different ways to make it harder, not just for the sake of making it harder, but for training your body in different circumstances.